Good morning and welcome, everyone. I guess you could say this is part 2 of County 121 here in Red River County. And I happened to, while I was doing some final notes on my very first post, I happened to see Gabby Lewis, and she was making some laps here around what used to be the courthouse. There was originally a wood frame courthouse here. They built a brand new courthouse, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. But I don't know, it's the first time I've noticed it, I guess I could say, or have noticed things like this. I have heard about Civil War statues in the news. I normally associate those with more of the Deep South. So I was rather surprised when I pulled up this morning, and in the center of the courthouse I saw this tall monument, and it was of a Civil War soldier. And I'm going to turn this around just so you can see what we're talking about. See if I can get that to flip. Well, it's not going to flip for me, so we'll do it that way. But hopefully y'all can see that. That is a statue. It's sponsored by the Confederate States of America. On the front of it, there is a Confederate flag, and it says, "In memory of those we lost in the Civil War." Now, I am all about memories. I am all about history. Y'all know that about me. But in light of the activities of the recent week, made me do a little bit more thinking about it. And because of that, when I saw Gabby here making laps around this, and it is a lovely park. They've done a great job with what used to be the courthouse. It's a great place to come and gather, but then to see what the focus of it is. Gabby, obviously you're an African-American woman. You said you walk this is part of your walking route every day. And Gabby, I'm not trying to stir up trouble in Clarksville. I'm not trying to paint the people of Red River as rednecks. But I wanted to ask you, and that's what I did. I just started off the conversation by saying, how does that make you feel?
Well, just like I said earlier, I've been here my whole life. I really didn't even know what that stood for or what it meant. I just didn't know. But just like you said, with the recent activities, I started kind of looking at just what was going on in the news and what people were saying and trying to do a little bit of research on my own. You have to dig really, really deep to find out what you want to find out, because when I looked up his name, none of the stuff came up about African Americans that I was hearing about. But you just really have to dig to find out that, just from what I understand, you know, they didn't care for African Americans. They didn't care for people like me. From what I understand and what I've heard, African Americans, they went and fought in the war with them, but when they came back, they promised that they were going to be free, but when they came back, they weren't free. And you, like you said earlier, maybe they weren't slaves when they came back, but they still weren't really free like everybody else, you know. And so it doesn't make me feel comfortable to walk around this every single day, you know, to know that somebody like this is being honored. I know in a lot of people's eyes he's a hero. Like I said, I still have more research to do, but just from what I'm seeing in the news and all that, it just doesn't make me feel comfortable walking around here every day. We even have a statue up at the high school.
And I wanted to ask you about that, because you mentioned that statue at the high school.
Yeah.
And the gentleman there was somebody who brought slaves up the Red River. He sold them here, he owned them here, and yet that's in front of your high school. And you said for generations y'all have taken your pictures right beside him.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I think a lot of people like these statues in this area also because it makes it look really nice, but you also have to think about how they make people feel, you know. And I really feel some type of way, especially going to that high school for that many years and then finding that information out. Of course, we were kids, we didn't look it up, we were just posing and taking pictures, not knowing what we were doing. But now that we know, you know, I think we really need to have some conversations.
That's got to be really unsettling in your gut.
Yes.
To think back in your mind of all the times you posed probably with your arm around that guy to pose for a picture, just being silly and being teenagers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from New Mexico originally, and we had a statue of a caveman because that was our mascot, and we always posed with him, just doing silly things with the cave.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine you doing that, and now to come back and find out that 150 years ago he would have possibly been your owner.
Yeah. I really don't even know what to say.
What percentage of the population of Red River County would you say is African American?
Oh, it's a lot. I don't know, but it's a lot. Our school here is mostly African American, so that pretty much tells you a little bit about the community.
And you mentioned yourself that you are a school teacher here.
Yes.
So, assuming that we have school next fall and that COVID hasn't shown back up, even if you're doing it online again, what are you going to tell students when y'all talk about Texas history?
I don't know. It's just something I'm still thinking about. You know, I know it's a touchy subject, but I feel like kids know the truth. We need to know the truth. You know, I think that's been half of the problem, half of these years, is that people haven't told us the truth, just like that statue sitting right there at that school. You know, we've been taught a lot of things, but nobody ever told us about that statue sitting right there up at the school. So I don't know. I'm just going to have to really think about it and think about also the age that I teach and how to approach it. I really don't have the answer to it right now.
And how do you teach something like that and encourage discourse and not discord and not create racial, and you may say, hey, we've had racial problems. This ain't going to be anything new.
Yeah.
So you may not be worried about creating racial discourse. But if we want discourse and not discord, how do you teach people about that?
Yeah. Actually, I have taught it every year that I've been a teacher. It's just how you approach it, and like I said, the age group that you have. I just go back to people that I know back in history, like in Martin Luther King, just different civil rights leaders that I know tried to unite people, and I talk about those times, and, I really talk about that part, and, just learning how to treat people regardless of how they look or because they're different from you, and I always tell them that this stuff happened a long time ago, but really it's still happening now. And I tell them, if you hear somebody talking like that, you need to be a leader, not a follower, because we have to break that curse.
Now, let me ask you this. You've mentioned that there are planned protest, demonstration, peaceful, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, right now, white people hear the word protest and they get scared.
Yeah,
because they've seen pictures. And so I want to downplay that, but it is at least going to be a rally.
It is
here in town.
It's at 5:00 today.
Right here where we're sitting.
Right here.
So that people can let their voice be heard.
Yes.
On this issue. Petition going around.
Yep.
But I want to ask you, let's make this personal. You're in a town with a large percentage of African Americans. You walk this courthouse area every day. You're even friends with the mayor, who happens to be Anglo. You mentioned you have a diverse friend pool. Looking up at that statue, do you feel like a 100% citizen of this community?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I never really thought about it. I guess we've just gotten so used to this. And I guess we just feel like, okay, as long as I'm fine, as long as my family's fine, you feel like you can't change everything, so you just deal with it. So I don't know, but I guess I feel like since all this stuff has come to the light, like I said earlier, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. And I was even thinking yesterday, I gotta find somewhere else to walk. I gotta find somewhere else to walk, especially when I've shared with people higher up that this makes us feel uncomfortable. You know, not just the soldier, but the Confederate flag. I know people might get upset about that, but I've seen people use that during times where they tried to intimidate black people. You know, when the guy killed the African Americans at that church, was it in South Carolina or North Carolina? South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He displayed the Confederate flag. Like, if it's not a thing of hate, why do people use it during times that they kill us and try to intimidate us? You know, that's what I think about when I look at that flag. But maybe that's not what other people look at. You know, and they keep telling us we need to move on. We are trying to move on. You know, we are. But when you have reminders like this right here in this town, how can you move on? If we gonna move on, then they need to help us move on. But we got these reminders right here in town. But I said yesterday I have to find me somewhere else to walk, because I've shared that this doesn't make me feel comfortable, and it's like our opinion doesn't matter, you know. So I don't know. I guess you just learn to deal with it, you know. I don't know.
You know what? I'm going to start praying for a day that you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. You know, we've been praying for a long time. And that's how we can keep on doing is, you know, praying. God sees and knows all, and hopefully a change will come one day. Everything won't be perfect, but maybe things will get better. I don't know.
And I'm not going to claim to be the world's most woke individual.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the word means. A lot of times I just think it's slang that comes up and is popular for a day, whatever, but
Yeah.
that's not who I'm portraying myself to be.
Yeah.
But what can I do to make the world better for you, person to person?
Well, just the fact that you're even acknowledging, and you're willing to have that conversation with me means a lot. You know, I think some people feel like if they ignore it long enough, it'll just go away. Because a lot of times that's what happened. Everybody will be uproared, and then the topic will just go away. But I think this is a very important time in our country, where it's just a good time to have these conversations. You know, some people just don't know what to say. But just having the conversation is showing that I'm trying, you know, and as long as you're just trying and you're trying to make an effort to understand, you know, that just means a lot, you know. And then just stand up. Just take a stand. You know, if you hear somebody saying something that they shouldn't be saying about somebody else, say that's not right. You know, I think a lot of people, they have conversations behind closed doors. We all do. We have conversations behind closed doors, and they hear people making remarks that they shouldn't be making, and they just laugh it off. You know, but when you do stuff like that, you're a part of the problem. You know, so we just need more leaders, more, you know. Quit trying to fit in with the crowd because you think your friends might make fun of you, or because it's not something that you would do in your culture. We just need people to stand together, you know.
So not even necessarily civic leaders, but leaders among your group of friends.
Yes.
Leaders
yes.
at your church, leaders at your job,
yes.
leaders in your running club,
yes.
leaders.
I mean, I don't know.
Folks, I can tell you one thing. The Bible says that the religion is true is religion that stands up for those that are downtrodden, for the widows, the orphans, those that are disenfranchised. Y'all know me. Y'all know that my Christianity means a whole lot to me. And if I can't take a stand now, I got to question where my heart is. That's all there is to it. And it was not my intent to make this weekend political. This weekend was political. And folks, this isn't even a political issue. This is just a human issue.
Yeah.
And I guess it took being here in the Piney Woods, because the history of the Piney Woods where race is concerned, there is a lot of great stuff that came out of this part of Texas. My family lives down here now. I love this part of Texas. It's pretty. You do have to have a set of gills if you want to try to breathe down here, because it's humid and it's miserable weather-wise. But folks, we just got to do better. Yeah. That's all there is to it. I mean, if you go just across the Red River, 14 miles from here, you're in another state, but that part of that state is known as Little Dixie. It's known as Little Dixie for a reason. The Klan is still active in this part of Texas. We're about 60 miles from one of the last sundown cities in the South. There is still a sign up that indicates it as a sundown city. They say it's there as history, and it is part of history, but maybe it's one that we leave in the books now.
Yeah.
I don't know, folks. I don't have any of the answers. All I have is questions, but maybe it's time that we start asking them. Not just about our African American brothers and sisters, but Hispanics. Those are a large part of Texas. How are we treating them? What's our record there? What do our cities look like? Folks, this is the last thing I'm going to say to it, because I swear I'm not going to make this a political thing. But I do know that I started on this journey to march across Texas to get myself to a place of health. I cannot claim to be healthy and my mind not be right. I cannot be healthy and my heart emotionally not be right. I cannot claim to be getting healthy, my relationships with another human being not be right. One of the things that I have learned in the 121 counties that I've walked through in Texas, is what a beautiful tapestry we are. And when Texas was starting out, you didn't have issues of black and white and Mexican and all of that, because we needed each other. It took all of us to make this state what it is. We need to be a state under one star, not under 13 stars with a blue cross on it. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Gabby, for this conversation. I appreciate it.
Glad to do it.
And folks, we've got another one coming up tomorrow. And you're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to have some question and answer tomorrow. And I hope you'll join me. I'll probably even try to make that one live. But once again, Fat Man on a Mission. I know this one was long, but thank you for your participation. We'll see you on the road.